So I walked them through how to do that, and we figured out a featured artist. So that was good. It wasn't sure. So when you go on someone's YouTube channel, like they can feature other artists. So now I'm one of his, which I wasn't before. So somebody might be like, "Hey, what the heck is this?" And then see, and also it gives legitimization. Like, hey, it's not just a random person. It's like at least something you can start. Oh, absolutely.
The DOJ argued that the district court's decision is unprecedented and that failing to halt the judge's ruling would not only undermine FDA's scientific research, but would also harm women relying on mifepristone for medical reasons.
ABC's Justin Finch says the government requested a stay on the decision or a stay pending appeal by noon Thursday. The pill, mifepristone, has been approved by the FDA and used across the country for more than 20 years. The Pentagon has sent the Department of Justice to investigate the highly classified leaked defense documents. White House spokesman John Kirby says officials have no idea who leaked the documents or how they got to social media.
They shouldn't be out there, period. That's the big one.
That's a good thing.
And trying to figure out how that happened. And I'm sure the part of that, the timeline, will be looked at as well.
Officials say dozens of classified files were published online in March. Some show how the U.S. and NATO were helping Ukraine. Include information about training schedules, weapons, and maps of one of Ukraine's key cities. Officials say while the documents are no longer relevant, the speed at which the information was leaked is significant. Some little blue sailors have been invading the beaches of Southern California.
Strange jellyfish-like creatures have been washing up on the shores of Huntington, Zuma, Manhattan, and Salt Creek beaches, but they look a lot like the poisonous Portuguese man-of-war. But experts say they are not poisonous and not jellyfish. They're called galella, or by-the-wind sailors. This species is a cousin of the jellyfish. Scientists say they're mostly harmless to people, but can cause slight skin irritation. Jennifer Jones-Lee, KFI News.
Southland weather from KFI, areas of low clouds and fog forming overnight and tomorrow morning. Lows in the upper 40s to mid-50s. Highs tomorrow in the upper 60s to mid-70s at the beaches, Metro LA and Inland OC. 70s to low 80s to the valleys, Inland Empire and Antelope Valley, cooling down to 5 to 10 degrees west for Wednesday and Thursday before we get back into the 70s and 80s for the weekend. It's 60 in Brea, 59 in Lake Forest, 53 in Marina Del Rey, 67 in Burbank. Still cleared in Van Nuys on the
I agree. I think a lot of civilization would be better this way. People would be much more honest.
Recovering from about Burbank Boulevard and 10 heading east down the mid-city, you'll start seeing traffic stacking up just after Robertson. Going to be a slow crawl from
yeah, I mean, that's a different one, but at least when it comes to interactions with people, you would know, like, hey, you didn't say that. I can go back to your tape and do it.
It's pretty busy until you get to the 138. KFI in the sky helps get you there faster. I'm Pedro Moreno.
Imagine getting ahead of your irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, or IBS-C by treating it with Linzess. Then you could start proactively managing your constipation with belly pain and get ahead of your symptoms.
I was always a big advocate of it, though. I always thought it would be a good idea to tape everything and record everything. Back then, we would tape. But, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. But, yeah, I mean, you got to let people know you're doing it. But if they do, essentially, hopefully, everything's on the up and up.
It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea.
You're exactly right.
If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling.
Imagine what could relief from IBS mean for you. Talk to your doctor. Yeah.
Right.
Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LIN-BBSF. At Queen, call Jacob and Ronnie. Call Jacob.
More stimulating talk.
And iHeart Radio station.
I'm too big for that though. Meaning, like, what one company can control this? There is. It's like if Amazon came in and was like, "Well, we don't want you to say that Jeff Bezos sucked a dick," I can be like, "Okay, Amazon, it's freedom of speech in the United States, and I'm allowed to say it. You don't have to necessarily sponsor me. That's your prerogative."
Beyond the possible for Jackie Ray.
West Fork, since it's on to me.
KFI AM 640. It's later. We're live everywhere on the
Sure.
iHeart Radio app. Joining me in studio, as she always does each and every Monday, is Jackie Ray, who is Long Beach Post reporter and WNBA correspondent.
Right.
Jackie, let me first say good evening to you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Shout out to the WNBA, had their draft tonight.
Hey.
Yeah.
We talk about the intersection of sports and society.
Yeah.
And usually I give you a headline and we go from there. I want to give you 3 headlines because there's an overarching thought process of what
It would just be a good lawyer to be able to find that kind of loophole in the clause.
$1 million campaign to fight anti-Semitism. Next is Donald Trump shows up at the UFC and is greeted by FJB chants. Let's go Brandon chants.
I mean, then one of the keys is just to ensure that I don't sign any exclusivity deal with anybody and just allow the data to be out there. If we wanted to perhaps allow for like the edited versions to be on Amazon Prime or something like that, yeah, that's definitely an option. But just allowing the data to be out there for the general public, I feel is
There has never been a time in which sports and politics or social issues have not been commingled. Where do you come out on that?
I mean, I think, like you said,
Sure.
sports and politics have always met because we, as a society, we put our celebrities and our athletes on a pedestal, so they've always met. When people don't like when they meet is when it's black. Yeah, full stop. There's no other way to say that. Robert Kraft saying, "Hey, I want to, what's it, 25 million that I want to put towards anti-Semitism." That's a lot of money.
Let me jump in there. So you're saying they would have been perceived differently if he said 25 million towards BLM?
Yeah, if he would have said 25 million.
well, God willing, we have that problem soon.
25 million to help black people who are incarcerated for selling weed now that white folks got their property from it. 25 million to focus on getting these people out of jail and making sure they have a life when they get out. Anything that he would have focused $25 million on that had anything to do with black people who haven't received reparations from slavery as the Jewish people did from the Holocaust, anything with that would have been seen as, oh my God, why is he doing that? Just be a sports owner. Don't say anything.
She's calling you?
Always when it's met with black.
Why don't you? Yeah, you can call me back. I have to use the restroom, so call me back. Okay, excellent.
With Mike Tyson, Joe Rogan, and others at the UFC fight this weekend, he was roundly applauded and well received. I don't have any problem with that. I don't begrudge that. We know that there's a cozy relationship between Dana White and also the former president, and we know that the former president has been very outspoken about various individuals in sports, from LeBron James and others. It seems like that is okay, but not in reverse.
Yeah. And the thing is, when he got Jorge, I know I always say his last name wrong, but first of all, there was never a time where I've been so happy to see somebody get beat. I was very happy about that. But to see 45 Dana White, who, by the way, just got a slap on the wrist for smacking the hell out of it, for any fighters involved in any sort of domestic situation, 9 times out of 10, though, we just know what it is. You know what I mean? This is the same, Dana White's the same man that wouldn't shake Francis Ngannou's hand when he won the belt, because if he has an issue with
a specific type. I'm not going to say all black people, but black people who challenge him, black people who call him out on his BS. He has a specific problem with these type of people, which is definitely a white supremacist issue. White supremacists will say, hey, well, you know, if you just get in line and do what we told you to do, everything will be fine. If you are okay with the Proud Boys, if you're okay with us saying, hey, we want to restrict voting rights in predominantly black neighborhoods in a way that we wouldn't do it in white neighborhoods, if you don't call out those types of things like redlining, then we're good with you. But the second you do start calling out those things, you have a problem and you're not that good.
Here's my problem, and I think a fair person and an objective person should be able to notice the difference. Greg Popovich has never been a fan of Donald Trump.
Ever.
He has been very vocal in his dislike of Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
He has been very insulting in his dislike of Donald Trump.
He gives you the dislike.
But I've never heard anything negative said about Greg Popovich by Donald Trump.
Right.
He has, I don't know of it. Now,
I've never heard it.
I know that he's been very vocal in his dislike of LeBron James and others. You know, sports is the same league. And I know he's been very vocal about others that he's disliked in regard to NBA and their social involvement. Let me bring it back to the larger question. Since we know that sports and issues have always been commingled, are we moving in the right direction in the sense of, are we doing as much as we should with these platforms regardless of our politics, or are we missing the moment and not using the platforms in the way we should?
I think I'm going to give a shout out to the WNBA right now, because the WNBA to me is a model of how things should be done. They not only address social issues, political issues, they do it as a collective. It's one of those things that I said black people need to start doing. We need to move as a collective, because their movement as a collective has gotten things done. They've set trends that you wouldn't normally see set, especially from a league that's leading $10 million a year, right? But because they move as a collective, they're able to say, you know, shout out to the commissioner. She was like, you know what? There are social issues that are important to our players as people. How asinine would it be as a league to assume that these people don't have things that are important to them, and we as a league not support them in that? It just makes sense, you know, just like my job, my day job. If I say, hey, this is a story I really want to do because it's important to me because of this, I'm empowered to do so because I am valued as a human being within that organization. So when you have people who understand that, hey, my plight in life is much better because of money than someone else's is, but let me see how I can help. I think for all of us, if our goal is not to leave this world a little bit better than we found it, then what are you doing?
Joining me in the studio right now is Jackie Ray, our regular contributor and commentator, as we talk about sports and society, how they intersect. It's more of Beyond the Box Score with Jackie Ray in just a moment. So keep it right here. It's later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app now to the KFI 24-hour newsroom in English.
Lindsay Horvath has joined with Planned Parenthood of LA in denouncing a federal judge's ruling that throws out FDA approval of a commonly used abortion pill. Bass and Horvath say they'll work to keep the city and county as safe havens for women seeking access to reproductive health care. One of the two Democratic lawmakers in Tennessee kicked out of the House last week for a gun violence protest on the House floor has been voted back in. The Nashville Council voted to reinstate him. A meeting is planned Wednesday to decide whether the other lawmaker will also be reappointed. Thanks to a resurgence of zooplankton, Lake Tahoe is the cleanest it's been since the 1980s. The zooplankton, which was kind of wiped out by shrimp, are back and cleaning the water again. Visibility at the lake is about 10 feet deeper than it was in just 2021. Low clouds and fog overnight and tomorrow morning, then sunny with highs in the 70s to low 80s. We've got a crash in Mid-City on the 10th.
Eastbound just after Western. It looks like it's been moved out of the two left lanes along the right shoulder now. Traffic is recovering from Washington Boulevard. You'll see delays on the 101 southbound in Hollywood as you approach Melrose. That stays pretty slow up until you get to the 110. And on the 215 heading southbound through Riverside, watch for delays as you come across University. That'll start to ease out for you once you get to Central. KFI in the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Pedro Moreno.
This report is sponsored by Stand Up to Cancer. Joe Buck and John Smoke welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh, she's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabbed the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org. How much do you think your home is worth this year? probably higher now than it will be next year. I certainly believe that. Some experts predict that property values might decline over the next few years, making it more challenging for borrowers to tap into that home equity. If you need $75,000 or more, HMS Capital can help you borrow the money you need with the equity you've built. So whether you want to consolidate debt, make home improvements, or whatever your situation may be, HMS Capital may have the best solution to help you. No appraisal, credit report fees to apply. I've done 2 mortgages with HMS Capital. Clearly, I'm a fan. I believe they are simply the best at what they do. Call 833-255-5698, 833-255-5698. Visit hmscapital.com. iHeart Podcast is excited to welcome Jay Shetty to the iHeart family. Tune into On Purpose with Jay Shetty, the hit podcast where the former monk shares fascinating conversations with insightful people and investigates ways to live life today on purpose. Try something new. When was the last time you did something for the first time with your partner? We're used to watching them do the same things, do the same activities. Let's see them do something fresh and new. Listen to On Purpose with Jay Shetty on the iHeart Radio app or wherever you get your podcast. Still waiting for your employee retention tax credit? Biz2 Credit knows the government may be slow, but small business can't be. Our ERTC loan offers cash now for your tax credit with funding in as little as 72 hours. ERTC loans keep your business going with interest-only payments for up to 12 months. For more info, call 800-381-0187. That's 800-381-0187. And go to biz2credit.com/ERTC loan for full terms and conditions. If you're selling your house, visit directbuyers.com. It's the hassle-free way to sell your house without an appraisal, no repairs, no commissions, get paid in cash in 10 days or less. Go to directbuyers.com or call 844-242-SELL. Are you feeling overwhelmed after a serious truck accident? The legal dream team at Jacoby & Myers is here to take the weight off your shoulders. We specialize in these complex cases and will work tirelessly to get the compensation you deserve. Losing your air conditioning on a hot summer day can be a sweaty old nightmare, and no one wants that, Zach. Help your air conditioner last longer and reduce breakdowns with a rejuvenation.
We'll make 6 critical adjustments so you'll stay cool, use less energy, and increase the life of your system.
We'll clean the outdoor coils the right way, not the easy way.
Rejuvenation, just $129.
Well, air conditioning and plumbing. TCL.com. We'll keep you cool, but it's hard to stop. License number 1047-781.
Seriously, Mike? Dealerships just fixed the transmission.
We all know how easy it can be to go to the wrong place for transmission repair. Made up of over 800 pieces, the transmission is the most complex part of your car. So bring it to the transmission experts at AMCO. AMCO, always the right fix. AA MCO. Special financing available. Restrictions, limitations, and exclusions may apply. See AMCO.com for complete details. After all the rainfall, we have the super glow. Go out there and check out the flowers. And the business that you're about to see on breakfast. This is great for radio, by the way. All right, you guys need it. I didn't can on radio, but I have it unbelievable. The Bay family drove 3 hours. I don't know about a 3-hour drive, though, to see it. The Tim Conway Jr. Show. It's not a Conroy's down the block. Live 4 to 7 p.m. on KFI. And on demand anytime on the iHeartRadio app. It's later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Twitter time. People are angry. People are upset.
I guess I'm doing my job.
Well, this is my thing. We tackle uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
And I don't need people to agree or disagree, but I do need people to at least know their facts when they want to come at me and say, that's not true. No, yes, it is true. You know, we're not making up things as far as history or reparations. And I understand these can be highly charged conversations as far as what we feel about where sports and society should meet. But there are some things which cannot be argued that sports have always been the rallying point for positive change in this country. I can tell you all the stories of suffrage and how circus performers and women got on bicycles and cyclists use that as a way to spread the message of suffrage around the country. It didn't involve African Americans, but it was still a part of suffrage. We all know about the civil rights act. We know about Jesse Owens in the Berlin Olympics. Sports has always been the rallying point. The question is whether we're okay with everyone using their sports silo to forward their beliefs, be it a Donald Trump or anyone else, or is it only reserved for a certain segment of society? Does LeBron James have to shut up and dribble, as he's been told, where Robert Kraft can do what he wants? Exactly. Or is it, are we going to have an honest conversation? And I hope we can have an honest conversation because that's what I'm about.
It's difficult to have an honest conversation when people honestly want to pretend like they don't know the facts of the situation.
How can I be homophobic? Yo, what's up, Gold?
One of the best game cuts I've ever heard in a while, actually.
Messaged me back. I said good morning and all that shit.
Cabs on, what the fuck? Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
You ugly as
You didn't message me shit.
You
I
ugly
thought
as
I did,
shit.
but I would never press send.
No.
But
Shut the fuck up, bitch.
By the way, I don't think I would have been able to answer because I was busy.
Yeah, one nigga looks like an emo. One nigga looks like he's got fucking depression. Yep.
Sixth grade history class, then that's more of a reflection on the hate that you have in your heart. But the reality of it is, we see this time and time again. I saw so many people hop on to Enes Kanter's bandwagon when he was talking about LeBron James and the fact that he has this deal with Nike, and then Nike has all these sweatshops and things of that nature. And then when I posted, you probably really should. I'm not upset with anybody having a plight that they want to kind of come up against, especially if it's a human plight. I don't have a problem with that. However, there's a couple of things that don't match up in this situation. Number one, LeBron James is a black man. If you don't understand how China treats black people, then this probably isn't a conversation for you. If you're going to stand out on an NBA court without taking a stand and saying, I'm not going to wear Nike even though I'm contractually obligated to do so, there's probably a conversation.
No, let's stop and pull back there. I would like to say this about Enes Kanter, and I appreciate his desire to help people right where he was.
Absolutely.
I would want the same latitude and respect for LeBron James, who's going to help people right where he is. If he's going to build a icon school in Ohio, I would support that. I would support Enes Kanter helping people in Turkey right where he is. I don't think Enes Kanter Freedom, his real last name now, his changed last name, has any right to tell someone else what their advocacy should be. I wouldn't want LeBron James telling Enes Kanter, now you're in America, you need to fight for this or fight for that.
But if LeBron did, there would be an uproar. But there was no uproar in the reverse.
I know, and sometimes, well, I should say, many times we like affirmation, not information. We want confirmation, and not aggravation or agitation. I'm not trying to be funky with my words, but that's what it comes down to. A lot of times, we're okay with advocacy as so long as it doesn't irritate me, the me portion of it. So we're going to still have these complicated conversations, but as we move forward, and I'm quite sure the LeBron Jameses and the Enes Kanters of the world are not going to shut up and dribble as it were. And I know that Robert Kraft is not going to stop using his money in the way that he sees fit, and the WNBA is going to continue in the way they collectively see fit. Is sports doing its job at this point? Yes, it's entertainment, but also it opens the mind of the larger society. Is it still doing that? Or is it doing something, I'm going to put the other side of the argument, is it doing more to push us into our silos? Because I can make the argument, yeah, it's nice that sports figures speak out, but I'm not so sure they're actually changing anything because I think they settle a little too much on just social media as opposed to getting their hands dirty.
I think there's a conversation around that, that's one of the things. Damian Lillard, one of my favorite players, also a great rapper, he actually goes out. You see him all the time. There's a lot of players in the NBA specifically that don't just talk about it, they are about it, and they go out there and they do the work. I think sometimes when you're an athlete, though, it might be a little bit easier to try to empower others to do that because you are a public figure and going out into these public settings when people are completely crazy right now might not seem like the safest thing to do. So you might, instead of getting your hands dirty, you might want to just build a school. You might want to have, water drives for Flint, Michigan. I've seen some people on the Detroit system do that. So you don't have to necessarily be in the thick of it, but I do think you should put your money where your mouth is if you're talking about any type of social or political change.
Jackie Ray, give out your social media. Come on with it.
Some of you are already on it, but in case you need it again, it is Jackie Ray TV, JACKIERAE TV.
And if you come out here with this silliness, be ready for it.
Yeah, I got time.
Don't come with a fake profile. Come with your real name, your real face, and we can have a real conversation.
Yeah.
But if you just want to throw insults in, I got no time for you.
Right.
But we can talk.
Yeah.
We can work through this. It's later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Now let's look at the KFI 24-hour newsroom and anything.
Leaders in LA County have spoken out against a federal judge's decision to overturn the FDA's approval of a highly used abortion drug.
Mifepristone is the most commonly used method of abortion in the country. County Supervisor Holly Mitchell was one of several leaders to criticize the reversal. She says the decision is a disgrace
and has no immediate impact on abortion and reproductive health services here in Los Angeles County.
The lawsuit the judge ruled on alleged the FDA's approval of mifepristone did not adequately review safety risks. The judge put a 7-day stay on his decision Friday so the federal government could appeal it. LA County leaders say they plan to continue to give out the drug while the judicial process plays out. In LA, Blake Trolley, KFI News.
A new bill in LA County could protect undocumented immigrants from being deported if they come forward with information about a crime. DA George Gascon introduced the bill and says far too often undocumented people are afraid to report crimes because they're afraid of being deported. This immigration status should never be a barrier to safety. Crimes under the measure include extortion, domestic violence, and stalking. The bill also got support from advocacy groups in the Asian community. Deputies are pressuring people to pay for fraudulent violations.
The department says the scammers tell the person they owe money for things like a jury summons or an outstanding warrant. Then they threaten to have them arrested if they don't pay up in a very short amount of time. Like larger scamming operations, this one also relies on gift cards, prepaid credit cards, even Bitcoin. The department says if you get such a call, hang up and report it to the real sheriff's department. The department says it never asks for money on the phone, and if the scammers give you a number to verify, don't call it. It's just another scammer. Steve Gregory, KFI News.
The CDC has issued a warning for clinicians and public health departments in the U.S. to be on the lookout for cases of a rare Ebola-like virus. Last week's warning comes in response to outbreaks of Marburg virus disease, one in Equatorial Guinea and the other in Tanzania, with neither country reporting outbreaks before this year. No cases have been reported in the U.S., but the CDC says the warning helps increase awareness of cases that might come into the country. Bees tend to pollinate blooming almond orchards have taken longer than usual to emerge from their hives because of chilly temperatures, wind, and rain across California. Almond growers say it's too soon to know if the delay is going to hurt the state's nut crop, which the Almond Board of California says makes up about 80% of the world's almonds. The state almond board says it's possible there will be fewer nuts this year than last because of a reduction in almond acreage following 3 years of drought and the intense winter. Southland weather from KFI, mostly clear early with lows in the upper 40s to mid-50s and low clouds forming overnight. Clearing tomorrow and will be mostly sunny skies after the low clouds clear out. Highs in the 60s to mid-70s at the beaches, Metro LA and Inland OC. 70s to low 80s for the valley, Inland Empire and Antelope Valley. About 5 to 10 degrees cooler Wednesday and Thursday, then warming back up with sunny skies for the weekend. It's 58 in Anaheim, 54 Redondo Beach. Crash in Mid-City on the 10.
Eastbound at Vermont Avenue. It looks like it's along the right shoulder, but it's causing some spectator traffic from Western Hollywood on the 101 southbound. Delays build up once you get to Melrose Avenue. It starts to clear up once you get to the 110. And on the 710 southbound in Vail, that's just before Florence. Watch out for a wreck that's in the center divider, causing some stop-and-go traffic as you come across Atlantic. KFI in the sky helps get you there faster. I'm Pedro Moreno.
What do you mean I can't light up spray tan?
wayfarers, and dolphin stories. Those are the tools of my trade. Now your top reasons to visit the wonder.
Rothschild live May 26th. Get tickets now.
Number 2,
Because Russell Feathers has the best chicken sandwiches in town. Try them at foodporn today.
and the number 1 reason.
We're the best. More people agree Morongo is the best place for a good time.
Morongo, good time. Hey, it's Team Shark with the unfiltered truth about water softeners. They don't filter your water. There's a better solution, a Light Source whole house water system. Light Source gives you filtered, delicious drinking water from every tap. No filters to change, no salt, no servicing, and now $5 a month with their easy payment plan. Call Light Source at 800-803-2696, 800-803-2696, or visit lightsourcewater.com. Hey, like my new bike? I thought you were buying a car. I tried. There's no availability. I looked. Not in the right place. Roto.com has cars. Really? Tons of them. And at great prices. Check Roto on your phone. Wow, that's a lot of cars. Didn't they take a trade-in for a bicycle? It's brand new. Okay, probably.
The wait is over. New and pre-owned cars are available right now. Start saving by downloading the Roto app or check out ROTHSCHILD.com.
Come to Dodger Stadium when the Cubs and Mets visit starting Friday, April 14th through Wednesday, April 9th to start the season off strong and get to the ballpark to cheer on the boys in blue. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/tickets.
Could you use monthly payments to help meet basic needs, like putting food on the table, paying the rent, or buying new shoes for growing feet? Find out about supplemental security income. You may qualify if your income and financial resources are low and you're 65 or older, or an adult or child with a disability or who's blind. Call 1-800-772-1213 or go to ssa.gov/SSI. Produced by Social Security, U.S. Taxpayer Expense.
Schedule a home for a safety check for just $77 with Rooter Hero Plumbing and Air. KFI has your inflation compensation with $1,000 from 6 a.m. through 7 p.m. Just looking for the keyword, then enter it at KFIAM640.com/cash. No texting, just winning. Powered by Sweet James Accident Attorneys. If you're ever an accident, winning is everything. Call the winning attorneys at Sweet James. 1-800-9-MILLION. That's 1-800-9-MILLION or sweetjames.com. Listen to win $1,000 weekdays from 6 a.m. through 7 p.m. Claim your inflation compensation on KFI AM 644 Stimulating Talk. This is later with Motel at KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Some of the stories that we're following in KFI 24-hour newsroom. Of course, we're following the event in Louisville, the mass shooting earlier today. We are now up to 5 victims who were killed today, and we will find out more about this employee/former employee, bank employee, who committed the shooting. We're not exactly sure the reasons behind it, but we're continuing to follow it. And also, FBI is warning, don't use free public phone charging stations. We may have a word or two about that later in the show. But I wanted to just very quickly comment about the last 2 segments I was having with Jackie Ray. I have a very open studio. I asked open-ended questions, and I asked her opinion. And that's what it was. And if you want to disagree with that, I encourage you to disagree with it. You can always reach out to me. We can have a respectful conversation at Mr. Mokelly, MrMokellY. But it's got to be respectful, and it's got to be grown in nature, because I think that we're capable of that. And we can disagree without being disagreeable, as they say. Now, there are things that she said that I don't necessarily agree with, but just because you mention the word black, it doesn't mean that it's racist in nature. And as we talk about the uncomfortable history of the intersection of sports and society, I think we can learn from it. I think we can grow from it. And I don't apologize for that, and I don't retreat from it. We can have these conversations. And, part of the reason why I give out my Twitter is so you can be heard. Not just so you can insult people, but you can be heard. That's why I read your tweets on the air. That's the whole point of having a discussion, so I can hear from you. You can also hear from me
on subjects that may be uncomfortable in nature. And I know that, but I think we can do that. Or maybe you can't, then I'll just have to block. But, it's going to be one or the other. We can have an adult conversation, a grown conversation, or we can have an immature conversation, and we'll just move on. But you know what? Come Monday, get ready to do that. We'll talk about more uncomfortable issues. Now, Los Angeles Start wants fuel cells to power next generation of carbon-free jet travel. Universal Hydrogen, which counts Harrison Ford as a hangar neighbor at Hawthorne Municipal Airport, which is literally 2 minutes from where I live, replaced the jet's right turbine engine with a 1 megawatt powertrain fueled entirely by a hydrogen fuel cell. Fuel cells operate similarly to electric batteries, but are much lighter, which is key for flight. And rather than needing to be recharged, fuel cells are fed energy-rich hydrogen gas to generate electricity, emitting only water vapor along the way. And I know we talked to Marcia Collier about this and how this might be a more viable form of green technology, if you will, than just the electrical batteries, the electric cars in which that we see right now. Now, I don't know how far away this is actually usable in large scale. For me, it's always about infrastructure. We can talk about electric cars all day, but if there's not infrastructure to support it, we talk about it specifically in California, with Gavin Newsom's initiative to have, no gas, may be a great idea for fuel cells to be the next generation of carbon-free jet travel, but we got to see it in actual use. We have to say, if you were to start having planes using this on a regular basis, and people can see it and people can apply it to their daily life, like we would see the electric car out on the road, then it may change the perception. Then there may be some interest which would be generated, no pun intended, which we could then start having the conversation of integrating it into society in an infrastructure in a foundational way. But until we do, we're just experimenting with technology. But that's where all great technology comes from. Every great leap that we see from, our childhood to now comes from someone saying, hey, let's try to do this thing that's impossible. They start there until it becomes a reality. Now, this being right in your backyard was like, even the I was like, man, like, Mo lives around the corner from this place. Okay, they're literally starting the future in your neighborhood. I'll give you a perfect example. I think it's a perfect example, but I think everyone can understand. Remember when you had 3 choices for video at home? You had VHS, you had Beta, and you had Laserdisc. Now, Laserdisc was the best technology because it was digital in nature. It didn't degrade like a VHS or a Beta tape.
It looked like a giant CD.
Yes, it did. And Beta was a higher visual quality than VHS. So which was the one that stuck? VHS. Because in an infrastructure standpoint, in other words, the VHS machines were much more everywhere. You could find them everywhere. Video stores were more likely to carry VHS tapes as opposed to Beta. That's what I mean by like infrastructure. If you can make it convenient for customers, because I remember we had Beta in my house, and far too often we would go to a local video store, and we were hard pressed to find a movie in Beta as opposed to VHS. So it's like, well, damn, we just have to give in and get a VHS because we want to be able to just do what everyone else is doing. And it's fine if to close the circle of this analogy, it's fine that this may be a superior technology to the electric battery fuel cell that we know of right now. But if it doesn't have that availability that these other technologies have, then it's all for naught. That's what I'm saying, though. This is not an average bridge for now. This is something that they're looking to entice, that will not